Hi, this is Gary with MacMost Now. On today's episode, let's talk about tab stops. So I've got a few questions recently about tab stops. If you've been using word processors for a long time, you've been using tab stops. But more recently, word processors allow you to add tables to your documents, so you don't have as much of a need for them. But they're still there in the ruler, and you still see them in documents, thus the questions. Let me show you how tab stops work. So I'm working in Pages here, but the same basic idea applies to TextEdit and even Microsoft Word. Now, the ruler at the top of the screen is where the tab stops are. If you don't see it, you want to make sure it's visible. So for instance, you can go to View and Show or Hide Rulers right there. With the ruler visible, I can create a tab stop by clicking anywhere in it. And you can see I can drag it left or right. If I want to get rid of it, I drag it down or up, out. So I'm going to place one right there. So what happens here is you can see my cursor. If I were to type some text and then tab, you'd see it would jump to that position right there. I can do that on the next line too. So it creates nice even columns of text. I can add another tab stop very easily for another column. Now the tricky thing about tab stops is you remember that when you set them, you're setting them only for the paragraph that's selected. So a paragraph is any line of text ending in a return. So in this case, I put a return at the end of this line. If I were to use the arrow key or the cursor and go to the next one, you can see that tab disappears here because it's only in this paragraph, but not in this paragraph. So you want to be careful when you're adding a tab to make sure that you select multiple paragraphs if that's what you want and add it for all of them. So I will add it here, and let's say I wanted to add another one and put it right there. Well, I'm going to first make sure that I select both lines there, add this tab stop here. Now I can see it's in the first line and in the second line. Now I can adjust tab stops by simply dragging. So I want to say select everything here, so it's affecting all four paragraphs, four lines here, and I can drag this tab stop like that and even remove it. And it affects all the lines at once. Now there are different types of tab stops. So you can see here with this triangle pointing to the right, that's a right tab stop. I could change it. Let me select all the lines again. And if I were to control click on it, you can see I could select several different types. So a center tab would align the text that's associated with that tab centered on that tab stop. Likewise, a right tab would align it to the right like that, which can come in very useful. And in addition to that, we also have another type. Let me go and change this one here to be a decimal tab. So what happens with that is I can enter in numerical amounts, like say dollar amounts, and it's going to place the decimal point in exactly the same location for each line. Now I have even more control over tabs with the inspector. I bring up the inspector, I go to the text inspector, and I click on tabs. And now I have a lot of control, as you can see here, over a particular tab. So for instance, let me select all the text here, and you can see that it shows me the tab stops, the exact measurements for each one here, and I can set the alignment for each one by selecting it. So for instance, the second tab is aligned to the right. I could change that align to the left or to the center. You can see it change there behind. I can also set the decimal tab character to something else other than a period. I can also set default tabs. This is what happens when you don't put any tab stops at all and you're just using the tab like you would say on an old-fashioned typewriter. It just moves forward half an inch as the default. Another cool thing you can do is you can set leaders. So what a leader does is you say select tab like this one here, the second tab, and let's set a leader to be a series of dots. And you can see what it does is it puts that series of dots from the previous tab to the beginning of the word there. So you get this, and no matter how these words are positioned and how much text you add, you can see it puts these dots, or you can do an underline, or you can do dashes. So there's a look at tab stops. You'll find that people that have been using computers and word processors for a long time tend to use tab stops, whereas people who are new to computers and word processors might use objects like tables and other layout elements instead. Either way, it's good to know how to use this valuable tool, so maybe check it out and play around with them. Till next time, this is Gary with MacMost Now. Want more video tutorials? Just go to MacMost.com, click on the videos link at the top of the page, and then you can view all of the hundreds of MacMost videos by category.